Gaming is culture.
You fucking whiny whore.
Gaming.
How mid Zelda became? Well, Zelda was always mid, but...
I never got the impression it was trying to poke fun at any particular group or make any real statements about modern culture. It's just...
I wasn't paying attention to the game. Okay, I can't stand... Which one is that? Is that Nerdrotic or Critical Drinker? I can't keep the two of them straight, but... Yeah, Anti-woke slop tent.
just there to have some fun with some likable...
What was the other, like, movie that he shilled for that was, like, super fucking woke, too? I forgot.
Characters, and it invites the player to do the same thing.
That's what everyone says. You're a fucking fan.
Because of the recent influx of brainlet goyim that have found my channel that couldn't even tell you if they had breakfast that morning or what a smoke alarm battery is, allow me to explain definitively what a grifter is.
You're such an idiot, it's just hard to even imagine.
To the people who have no grasp of what the word grifter means or how to spot one, have no fear because this video is actually for you. A grifter is a content creator or critic who presents themselves as offering genuine analysis or passion for games while primarily chasing personal gain, money, views, influence.
Yeah, my passion's dead.
Political standing or status through deception, opportunism, or manufactured authenticity. These people are truly fake to the core, or controlled opposition if you prefer that term. These are the kinds of people that masquerade as genuine while they would probably betray you at the slightest sign their income or fame or standing with others might fall in jeopardy. Ultimately, the best way to describe them truly is parasites. And willfully following or defending these kinds of people after the most of the information in this video I share with you, I consider you no better than them. Because I think your decision to live within a bubble of conformity and being too afraid to face the reality that we live in a declining society that is overran by your future scholar and doctor and facilitated and funded by a government that has been on your own destruction of your people, I do think of you as a complete traitor. When you don't point out the propaganda in games, movies, or any bit of entertainment, and grift the movement to stop such things, or even slow the radicalization of rational thought, you are at least willfully fake and performative of a person filled with greed.
A question.
Yeah.
Has God taken the anger out of your heart?
Why do you ask that?
I just curious.
Now, to make myself clear,
My hatred boils over.
we are going over the blatant grifters in this video. And yes, sadly, since these are real people and we don't live in fiction, we do still live in clown world. So I must say, do not harass these people, and this is for entertainment purposes only. With that being said though, blatant grifters such as Critical Drinker, Endemion TV, Smash JT, Andy Pants Gaming, Mauler, Quarter Pounder with Cheese, just to name a few, this video might be considered a part 1, leading to a different kind of grifter in the second video. A much more sinister and far worse kind I think belongs to its own name itself, an interloper. An interloper is an unwanted person who enters a place or group or situation where they do not belong or not welcome. There are a few examples I could rattle off, but I'd like to save that for the next time, as I do want to do more research. Since when someone is intelligent enough to skin suit the chuds, to skin suit the right, it requires more work to expose their insincerity, because it has sadly become profitable to be inflammatory. I think one of the best places to start is with Andy Pants Gaming, who I have a great hate for. I find his drivel so uninspired and fake, where just in his voice triggers a sort of self-defense in my brain as telling me this guy is not genuine or sincere.
I personally feel the more gay, lesbian...
Yeah, Andy Pants started off as a parody channel. And then he saw, hey, look how much money I can make doing this.
trans and female characters we have in games, the better. The more diverse perspectives we have in games, the better they will always be.
Rather than being judgmental towards others, I started focusing on God's mercy towards me.
Oftentimes, I'm compared to him, which some might see as a compliment, and I see it more as somebody pissing in my face. Now, some of you fake chuds might say to me, oh, he called Jason Schreier a lying gay Jew. Now, I know you might have gotten red-pilled yesterday, but it is not any sort of taboo to make fun of Jews, blacks, or women anymore. It's just not. We live in a different kind of internet culture.
What's going on, guys? So I recently saw that everybody's favorite game journalist, Jason Schreier, has started a YouTube channel, and it's actually getting pretty popular. And I was baffled because it made me wonder, like, do y'all not know that this guy is literally why we have wokeness in games? So I call him a lying gay Jew because that is what he is. By definition, he lies. Gayness is his sexual orientation, and he is Jewish by nationality.
Rather than being judgmental towards others, I started focusing on God's mercy towards me.
You're such an idiot, it's just hard to even imagine.
Within this video, Andy Pants doesn't go any farther than just saying this is his nationality and labeling him as Jewish and gay. Because, yes, Jason Schreier is Jewish, which is true, but Andy Pants may or may not even understand his own words. Which, I mean, this is actually something Andy Pants is very skilled at.
Ironically enough, I don't think Jason Schreier is gay. He's just so Jewish that he sounds gay.
On my gay ass art projects. Some confused ass troon and so gay, fat troons, and you hire a bunch of black women and fat dykes trooning out gay ass art projects. That's what they think.
Rather than being judgmental towards others, I started focusing on God's mercy towards me.
It is undeniable that he is skilled in his craft of grifting, where he knows the buzzwords that might grab the attention of room temperature IQ golem goyim. He says the right words: gay, Jew, black. No more masculinity in games. That's one of his favorite ones. For someone like Andy Pants, if you were to honestly ask him what he thinks about actual propaganda in games, besides just saying buzzwords to cover his own ass, you would find it hard to get a good answer out of him, because it's a grift. and he doesn't truly believe what he is saying. He just knows the right things to say. A good example is the things he does not talk about in his videos, such as the propaganda within games and media to push the normalization of miscegenation. This is one taboo aspect that you could call out a lot of grifters on. Why constantly being force-fed in every form of entertainment, black women with white men and white women with black men, is a targeted and very calculated effort stemming back ages. If it doesn't matter, why is it pushed so hard? A lot of people, in heavy quotations, only say gamers want good
Yep, and it's the lowest propensity mixed race couple of all of them.
games overall. And diversity isn't the issue as long as they don't look at the camera and say, I'm a trans half-black Indian super scientist that is also a girl boss. Because most people are far too dumb to articulate even the quarter of real propaganda pushed on them. It is subconscious. I mean, this intro to his Indiana Jones video speaks for itself.
So I had every reason to think the Great Circle would be woke as hell, but then I played it, and I gotta say it's actually pretty good. If you think about what myself and others do on these channels, we are begging companies to go back to normal-ass video games. Stop pushing political agendas, just tell classic stories, stop inserting 2024 politics. And I gotta give them credit, they gave us what we've been asking for.
Willensschwache Männer sind am einfachsten zu manipulieren.
For God's sake, who cares? You are both stuck in the past, and right now there is a great evil spreading throughout the world, and we can choose to fight against it or each other. Stop it!
It's okay. He's with us.
Yeah, it's not the most woke game in the world, but there is some elements to it.
We will start him. Take the boat down by the river, and good luck, Dr. Jones.
Thank you.
Go now! Ah!
IndyPants' greatest failure is his interview with Ackman.
Buddy, this is the Ackman here. And recently I did a debate with the YouTuber Andy Pants Gaming. Now, some of you may be familiar with him, some of you won't be, but I did a debate on his channel, and because he's been deleting comments, or sorry, disabling comments, enabling comments, disabling them again, disabling the live replay chat, unlisting the stream, republicizing it.
Hopefully it's mutually beneficial. He can use me for content, I can use him for content. It's fine.
We have a funny quote from you. I found your old video on political bias in game journalism. And again, it's like, this is a good take. But see, like, the audience you've cultivated is not going to like something that you say here.
Oh, great. I can't wait.
Yeah, these are your words. The more gay, lesbian, trans, and female characters we have in games, the better. The more diverse perspectives we have in games, the better they will always be. This isn't really lining up with the direction your channel is going in, does it?
Yeah. What I will say is that about a year ago, I was backing Xbox, and I think it's pretty commonly known that I used to have an Xbox channel. And then I think in those moments of me backing Xbox, I would say stupid stuff at some points. And you know, if anybody wants to find that or Google that or whatever, I don't know.
Oh, is that one of those stupid things you don't think?
And I'll be the first to say that I've grown since then, and I've moved on from former views.
Yeah, you moved on from the Xbox console warrior grift to the anti-LGBTQ grift.
Sure, if that's what you want to call it.
Yeah, Plasma Storm Hollow is probably worth something, but depending on condition, you can look it up on TCG Player if you want, and then just filter by the condition that it's in, and that should give you an idea of what it's worth.
You're such an idiot, it's just hard to even imagine.
To watch this interview is a perfect example of two dishonest, scummy, and utterly incompetent people going at each other only to deflect non-stop. IndyPants may say the industry is cucked, but Ackman practically bent his grift over and turned him into a victim. And I despise the Ackman. And as dishonest and deflective as he was in that interview, he was far more prepared than Piss Pants Gaming, who came for an easy gotcha moment for clips. It is utterly neutered that IndyPants tucked his tail with this interview. Imagine losing to Ackman. It's honestly pathetic. I found it a test of rage to see and hear the deep smugness of Ackman with an ego unchallenged as his.
Especially like the part where you were like, why don't these YouTubers talk about racism directed towards white people?
Yes.
And you know what, you're right, bro. I started working on a new video. It's called "Why is the Great Replacement Theory So Bad?" And I think the fans are gonna love it. We're just hard pivoting to political content on my main channel. I'm all in. I'm like you, man. I'm all in.
There's Glee in which he makes fun of a real threat to white people, and that is extinction. I wonder who else would do such a thing. Also, to anyone who has affiliated himself with Ackman and claims to be based, you know who you are, and I will see you in the next video. You honestly have to answer for that, because I will call you out as a grifter. This leads us to someone else who has built their entire channel on culture war nonsense that I have an endless amount of contempt for, and is a good example of what I would call safety net content.
So apparently it's not enough that I've been gushing about this movie on social media for the past couple of weeks and talking about it like every open bar. It seems like I just can't complete
This was the fucking centerist movie.
my character arc unless I give you a full video review
Now
of
I
it. So,
remember,
okay,
yeah.
fine, I guess you win. Sinners is a really good movie. In fact, it's probably Ryan Coogler's best work of his career. People would probably accept two things. One, raising awareness of social, cultural, and environmental issues isn't a bad thing. Neither is encouraging people to look at the world from different perspectives, or giving historically underrepresented groups or problems a bit more visibility and attention, or trying to move beyond tired and damaging old stereotypes. The point I'm making here is that incorporating progressive themes and ideas into entertainment is no different than incorporating traditional conservative themes and ideas. They're both just perspectives that the audience is invited invite you to consider.
So maybe it really shouldn't be too shocking that he jerked off award-winning anti-white film Sinners, specifically praising the twerking and crip-walking scene, as that's black excellence right there. That's the culture, white boy. White people don't even season day assault victims. Drinker even acknowledges that while the film is blatantly anti-white, to the extent that you'd be a fool for not noticing, the genetic hatred against his people was done so well that it actually enhanced his viewing experience.
One thing that also got people talking about this movie were the allegories with contemporary culture and racial politics, and honestly, if you can't see the obvious message behind parasitic white vampires infiltrating a prosperous and exuberant expression of black culture to literally suck the life out of it for their own benefit, then well, maybe movies aren't quite your thing. Seriously though, as much as Kugler clearly has something to say with all this stuff, it's integrated intelligently enough into the narrative that it actually enhances the film rather than detracting from it. It doesn't batter you over the head with its message, but instead invites you to consider what it might be trying to say.
Critical Drinker and the wider self fellatio. Oh, sorry, I mean EFAB, a coalition of some of the worst people to grace the internet. This safety net content or controlled opposition is meant to catch the majority of the normies from drawing logical conclusions, or dare I say, noticing too much. Because woke only means trans BIPOC main character, not the constant struggle of the white man to maintain the slightest bit of his history depicted in media truthfully, without shoving a bunch of browns or third worlders into it to humiliate white history, and not the freefall moral decline of women willingly destroying their own ancestry. These are the kind of things you will never dare see critical normie consider, or any of these other grifters mention. Because we only want well-written movies. Isn't that right, Chud? Oh, if only our movies and games were well-written. As long as it's well written, then you can shove as much propaganda as you want in it, and he'll be fine, especially if the propaganda isn't blatant. And if Critical Normie slips up in his grift, in which he has gotten caught on before, you can be assured his brown-nosing friend Mahler will gladly lap up the mistake and defend him to the bitter end.
And here's the thing, this batch is actually pretty good. Yeah, there's definitely a few rough edges on the story front where I think
It's really not. It's fucking... Dude, Dispatch is fucking shit. That... yeah. Genuinely terrible game.
the episodic structure lets it down a little towards the end, and some of the mini-games do start to wear thin after a while, but the things Dispatch gets right, it gets extremely right. The core characters are by far the best.
Yeah, the fucking cocks and balls everywhere flapping around. My favorite part.
Aspects of this game, fun and likable, and played by a superb voice cast who give it their all, especially during the heavier dramatic scenes. The dialogue is solid and brought out some genuine laughs at times.
All the time, actually. Bro. I like to bust after every big bust, you know, and I was pretty successful, so you can imagine.
Sounds like loads of fun.
The dialogue is solid and brought out some genuine laughs at times.
Critical Drinker is another who actually believes in nothing of substance. His videos are surface level and offer little to no value. The editing itself is incredibly bare bones, and his fake voice I find profoundly agonizing to listen to. Not only did Dispatch, a game with a very brown and very gay cast, not ring any woke alarm bells for Critical Drinker, he also lauds the writing of the dialogue. If you need more evidence than this, you probably need help wiping your own ass and putting your own pants on in the morning. But for the sake of being thorough, I will give another example. One thing I'd love to ask the Drinker is what the message really is. I think just like Andy Pants, he would have a very hard time setting a definition that fits whatever he has used this in his videos because he contradicts what the message is constantly. Notice then this clip of what the message is in the Odyssey.
So I guess we might as well start by addressing the three elephants in the room. Yes, Elliot Page, Lupita Nyong'o, and Zendaya are all in this movie. Yes, Elliot Page looks just as ridiculous as you might imagine trying to run in a heavy suit of armor. No, they don't have more than a couple of minutes of screen time each and they're largely irrelevant to the story, and Zendaya doesn't even act so much as exists on screen. And yeah, I know it's the principle of the thing for a lot of people, and if you're really bothered by stuff like that, it's kind of like me saying I only spat in your food a little bit, so why aren't you eating it? The point I'm getting at here is that as much as these three dominated the headlines around this movie, they really don't have much of an impact on the film itself, and they had no impact on my perception of it. They come and go so quickly you barely
no impact.
Even notice them.
Society is fine, right, boys? The West is flourishing, correct? Billions must live. Isn't that right?
And supposedly the guy who popularized making fun of diversity in movies that make no sense, he says, it's just a little bit, why bother? Didn't bother me. And notice the small put down of people who would notice this kind of thing. Is that enough, or do I have to keep yelling? Because there are plenty of examples. These are the moments that slip up the grift, that places most of these people in the early 2016s of America, where they saw wokeness or simply left
oh my god.
wing Hebrew politics at its height.
It didn't impact my perception. Like, come on, dude.
And said, let's pull back just a little. Not all the way. Bring me back into my safety bubble.
Yeah, dude. Fallon of Detroit just did nothing. Literally nothing, man.
This fits under Side Scrollers Podcast as well that I want to make a side backhand statement to. Side Scrollers Podcast is a meaningless waste of time that brings fat land whales on that also preach that it's just the companies, dude. It's only the companies. When they race swap white characters out of movies, like The Odyssey, they get glee out of this. It is a taunt to you. A cope common said is, well, we just picked the best we had at hand. This also falls under how people cope about diverse casts in video games. They made the distinct choice of actors or characters they put into their games. A video game didn't just sprout a 3D model. They made Amanda Bug Eyes on purpose and put her into everything. Propaganda keeps this cycle moving, and with a heavy boot on the whites that built it. No matter how non-racist you are, how much time you waste pandering to blacks about slavery, the worst of them are using that time and effort to dominate you into submission. You show submission when you bend the knee and grift on this. Reason is because you might feel bad because somebody said that words you said hurt them. them. I don't care if my words hurt you at all. Indians hire Indians, blacks hire blacks, and whites only hire people who hate them and their history, because retarded boomers and millennials think that we can all get along as if we just row the boat together. We can make it. But what happens when nobody else has that plan? What happens when the other side of the boat is rowing against you and you just added more numbers to their side to row? Congratulations, you have created your own destruction. You actively cheered for it. And to try and do anything about it comes women, and not even feminism at all. People blame feminism widely because a woman is inherently liberal and will take the side of your destruction because they cried once. Women are nurturing. That is their quality. It is a good quality. But
to an extent, they're nurturing.
they don't have children anymore to protect, so they must find something else to fill their nest, and most grossly they have chosen the people who are flooding your country to be their babies. Meanwhile, the scholar and the doctor who said all they wanted was better life in your country, out of their own shithole, have raped 12 within the last hour. But we should feel bad for them. These anti-woke grifters are not your friends. In fact, they have contempt for their audience, seeing you as something to tug and pull around and manufacture outrage, wasting your time while they can play any side they want for more attention. They will never say the hard things or something that might jeopardize their source of income. They are willfully ignorant to the real issues and have consistently shown they know how painfully brain-dead their audience is by playing them like the damn fiddle! Even so, these are not any sort of worst of their kind. The fake Chud, I would say, is a more grotesque skinwalker. Certainly a skilled one that has to be able to infiltrate so deeply. Many of these kinds of people have cracks in their persona though, because no matter how good you are at hiding yourself on the internet, you cannot keep it up under endless scrutiny. Regardless, I hope this video has given good examples of what to look for in a grifter. We could spend the time and go over every single one and why, but I think giving you the tools to think for yourself are more important. And many of the Chuds are very flawed and sometimes contradictory people. But at the core of what is most important of all of it is that the Chuds actually believe what they say to the soul and aren't pussies to keep quiet about it.
To the anti-LGBTQ grift.
Sure, if that's what you want to call it.
At the end of the day, that is what a grifter is, a soulless golem that is there to be controlled op, to stop real people from realizing how bad things really are, and to take advantage of people who are actually fed up with the system and fed up with the media they consume, and they have no idea what they are doing. I look forward to the next video, where I talk more about the interloper. But as for now, have a good day, never give up. So this was a more serious video. I know you guys like your jokes, but I think it's important to say it blatantly and promptly, because if you lean too hard to jokes, you know, nobody's going to take you that seriously. Anyway, I hope you like this video. I will keep you posted on the next one. Again, I always say it won't take that long, but it typically does. Have a wonderful one. Take care of yourselves, everybody. Thank you all. You're the best.
You're in neither list. I have to make a choice? Nah. I don't know. I don't really even think I make that many, what, chud points, I guess? What would you call it? I mean, I'll mention, like, if something's, like, woke or something, but I don't know. It's not really the main focus of the videos I do, so I don't know. I don't really think. No, Griffin in the chud list? Yeah. The armpit Asian. No, we can't. We gotta watch videos, PK. Videos, dude. Alright, let's see. Next up.
The simplest way to reveal how good a video game's core mechanics are is by looking at its optional content. Obviously, there's the main game and everything you have to do to reach the credits of the game, but if you're really having fun with the overall gameplay loop, then you'll automatically be incentivized to do more than you're supposed to do. Shit like going down alternate paths, grinding for XP, or in this case, doing side quests. You don't just want to do these to get 100% completion on your file, but really because you want to play more fun video game. An example of well-utilized optional content are the special missions in Devil May Cry 3. The secret missions can go in whatever direction they want when it comes to what you're supposed to do, because they're completely inconsequential to the main story, and because they're optional. Like, for instance, having to jump on enemies' heads for 20 seconds. It's a pretty specific and unconventional requirement, but it's a good way to introduce players to this more esoteric mechanic. Besides, the ordeal is fairly short, and your reward is a health upgrade, something that anyone would find worthwhile. This kind of design is replicated in many games from this era. Side content has to be intriguing from a gameplay standpoint, and it should not interfere with the story. But developers nowadays are mostly choosing to ignore this kind of game design for the sake of more trivial shit like constant dialogue during gameplay. God of War Ragnarok is a pretty open game, but it still wants to have a big story like the older God of War games. So it can't give you complete access to the world from the start, but it still wants you to go out of your way to get stronger by getting new gear, which is mainly accomplished by completing side quests. But there's already an issue here. The whole overarching plot of this game is centered around Ragnarok. Every character is pretty concerned by what will happen next, because of course they are. It's the end of the
And then you never get to see what actually happens next.
fucking world. But for some reason, Kratos finds the time to help free some giant jellyfish, or help some fucking midgets during a side mission.
Hunter eats Hunter with the two. Gaming culture is fragmented, grifters, and sure chaos. Pretty much, man. I don't know. At the end of the day, you know, you can make a lot of fucking money pandering to whatever side of whatever issue is most popular or you can fit into the niche of, so I don't know. It is kind of a shame, honestly. I mean, it feels like that's basically the issue with the right-wing side of politics in general, is there's just way too many fucking grifters. Like, they're failed leftists that then skinwalk as right-wingers. Like, almost all of them start off as leftists, and then all of a sudden they see the light, dude, and then they're propped up as, like, this, you know, bastion of free thinking, and they need to be supported because they will, you know, ferry even more people over from the left to the right. So, you know, excuse all their past transgressions and blah, 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 blah. But, yeah. I don't know.
While his son is somewhere in fucking Asgard. They insist on giving every single side mission a little story to follow, but in consequence, it trivializes the urgency of the main story, which should be given the most importance. Okay, but I guess we can kind of ignore that. Ragnarok's story is pretty dogshit. So what's even more important is the gameplay. What are you doing during these side missions? Well, most of them consist of you being told to go to a specific area, so for the beginning you'll be slowly rowing your boat or riding your sleigh towards a location. And you never have to figure out where you have to go, because the game will constantly hold your hand by telling you exactly where your destination is on your compass. Oh, so much for player agency. I spoke about optional content making you appreciate a game's core gameplay loop. Well, in God of War Ragnarok, when you're not sitting through a 10-minute cutscene,
Bow to your...
you're either solving puzzles or engaging in combat. And that's exactly what you're doing in these side missions. The same shit you're doing in the main game. There's never a part where the game gives you an unorthodox challenge that would justify it being optional, or where it seamlessly introduces you to a more obscure mechanic of the game. And your reward for being an errand boy while the world is coming to an end is new loot to upgrade your stats. I won't completely discredit the game though. The Berserker side quests are quite good because they don't involve mindlessly rowing your boat towards a marked position. It's just a fairly challenging boss fight, which is the game at its best. But you know, it's really obvious that all the creativity that went into the side content was put into the fucking dialogue interactions between the characters. Just so they can hammer in the fact that Kratos is actually such a good person now. Oh man, not like he was before. Aren't you glad that Kratos is such a deep and nuanced character now compared to the disgusting creature from God of War 3? And back on the topic of immersion, this kind of story structure just doesn't work for something like God of War. They really want the game to have stakes, but if you think about it, they also don't want players to miss anything because they know nobody is playing this game for a second time. So every side mission is made to be playable at any point in the game. This means none of them have stories specifically surrounding characters like Sindri, Brok, or Atreus who either die.
Yeah, I can't even imagine wanting to replay this game. Like, it was such a fucking slog the first time around. Like, the second time, hell no.
Or leave the group.
Because at least the first time you have, like, a semblance of hope. Like, hey, is it actually going to get better? The second time, you know it never will.
Point in the story. You know, I think the real reason they didn't have Kratos die at the end of the game, as foreshadowed in 2018, is because they really wanted a fucking post-game with more chores to do. And funnily enough, the game actually does have side content to unlock after finishing the game, with more archaic game design, like killing enemies under a time limit. But you have to go all the way to another realm by going through a portal, and then waiting in the fucking portal dimension. It's fucking bullshit, man. It's inconvenient, really. Do you know where God of War 3 put its challenge mode? In the main menu. Because it's convenient. You don't have to go to a specific area in Olympus to play content that has nothing to do with the story. I don't know why games nowadays have this hatred for their title screens or any kind of UI. It's what gave you the scope of the game, how much shit is there to unlock, everything you can look forward to by playing the game. But title screen tangent aside, how can optional content embedded into the game's world be good? An example that comes to mind is Ratchet & Clank. On every planet you set foot, there are at least 2 paths you can take. One is the main path, which continues the story, while the other is an optional path with its own entirely unique set of challenges. You'll be incentivized to go down the optional path because it's simply more Ratchet & Clank gameplay, and your reward is a new weapon, which gives you an entirely new option in combat. Even if you might never use this new weapon, you still get a little cutscene which gives you a little feeling of accomplishment. This is much better than mere stat increases, which you'll completely forget about. Doom 2016 is another game with good side content design. Levels are all fairly linear, with very simple tasks you need to complete to progress, but along your path, you may come across one of these portals. These contain a side challenge with specific requirements to complete, like killing everything with a certain weapon, or having to kill all the demons in a short amount of time. It's the same gameplay loop, but with an unorthodox way to win. It's what makes them fun and why they're optional. And your reward is a talisman which gives you a certain advantage in battle. But I will admit, these 2 games have the advantage of being less narratively driven, but more on that later. I've shit on Ragnarok quite a bit, so let's look at another game. Spider-Man 2. In this game,
CC, my beloved.
instead of rowing your boat to a location, you web swing, which is much more involved gameplay. So in theory, exploration and side quest design should be more fun.
It's complicated. I was working things out. I'm sure it gets complicated when you take it up your fat ass.
No, it's the same fucking shit. It's mostly mini stories of Spider-Man doing some bullshit chores. And I'm sure you all know this, the worst one is having to play as a deaf black girl. With no superpowers, she can't do shit in a superhero game. You know, maybe canceling TFD was a bad idea. So what? Is it only linear games which know how to do side content and open world games just can't? Obviously not. It's just when a game is both open and story-driven that it drops the fucking ball. Elden Ring has mandatory and optional tasks, but just like Ratchet & Clank, it doesn't explicitly indicate which is which. You're just having fun with the game, and at a point you'll realize, hey, what I'm doing might be optional, but you're having so much fun that you'll just keep doing it. Alright, so games, which are both open zone and story-driven, just can't have good side quest design. They're doomed to always go against the main narrative and have boring incentives. Well, there is actually one game which has a very similar structure to God of War Ragnarok, but unlike it, it actually wants to be a video game.
Let me be your sexual healer. Play with me, my doctor stealer. Want to be your slave dealer. Play with me, my doctor.
So as I just said, Gravity Rush 2's structure is very similar to God of War Ragnarok. In between every main story mission, you're allowed to fuck around in the world and start side missions. Now, the first obvious difference is movement. Exploration involves the actual gameplay of gravity shifting.
Yeah, exactly. Gravity Rush, I would not really personally compare to God of Snow Ragnarok, but you know, maybe.
So it's both fun and convenient to get around the world instead of just rowing a fucking boat, as I said multiple times. And then on the side of the narrative, how does Gravity Rush 2 not interrupt its story with the side quests? The game uses a very simple metatextual tool to have contained side stories while also not trivializing the main story. Every time you start a side mission that can't logically happen at the point of the story you're at, say a character who plays a part in the side mission isn't currently present in the main story or anything else, Kat will tell you that this shit happened to an earlier version of herself. This shit isn't happening right fucking now, it's in the past. Yes, it's a bit immersion breaking in the moment, but it allows the story to have a fixed timeline of events. Also, there's Kat herself, whose main personality trait is her selflessness and her general need to help others. As opposed to Kratos, who, yeah, he did commit a selfless act at the end of God of War 3 by sacrificing his life to release hope to the world, but I don't think that translates into becoming an errand boy for midgets. Then for incentive and gameplay, some of these side missions are basically the portals from Doom or the VR missions in Metal Gear Rising, where you make use of a specific mechanic of the game to complete a time trial challenge. If you're just having fun with the gameplay loop of gravity shifting, then you'll automatically like these, and your reward for performing well is more gems to buy more upgrades for Kat's abilities. The game manages to prioritize its main story while also going all out in the gameplay department. Of course, there are still bad mechanics implemented in the game, like everything which involves stealth, but I'll take those sections any day over playing as a deaf black girl. There's no way I'm buying the new Wolverine game, but I'm betting the same exact side quest formula of talking to an NPC, being given a task, going to a location, beating up bad guys, and then coming back for a fucking shitty reward will be used again. All I can say is just have high standards when it comes to the things that bring you joy. This has been the legendary Brodus. Have a good day.
GTA ass music. Yeah, that was a pretty good video. Hyperg me. The fuck. Okay,
Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. In my quest to rank and review every Xbox game, weird exclusives have popped up, but today's might be one of the weirdest. Today we are talking about Galleon, an Atlas-published platformer from the creator of Tomb Raider. I beat it recently, and let me give you some history and a review. All footage was captured off of an original Xbox, and I want to thank my YouTube channel members for their support. But let's go ahead and hop into the history of this one. The story of Galleon can be traced back to a man named Toby Gard. Toby had worked for the development company Core Design, which at the end of 1996 released the hit Tomb Raider. Released to widespread critical and commercial acclaim, Tomb Raider was popular at the time, and that's definitely from the help of Toby, who was both the lead artist and the one who came up with the concept for Tomb Raider, inventing the character Lara Croft, one of the most popular gaming characters of all time. Yet he was dissatisfied for what the team wanted out of the sequel, and he was given less creative control, so he left the studio in 1997. 6 months later, he, along with Tomb Raider lead programmer Paul Douglas, would start their own company, Confounding Factor, with a game planned right from the start for both PC and Dreamcast, skipping 6th generation consoles. First announced under the name Leviathan to Game Informer magazine for a 1999 release, in 1998, Edge magazine would get the official title of Galleon, showing off great polygonal animations for the lead character Rama, though that seemed to be the extent of what they had. Galleon would pop up all over magazines throughout the following years, becoming a hotly anticipated game, but it definitely had the shadow of Tomb Raider over it, as that was the main topic about this game. They would also have the publisher Interplay behind them. Still promising a 2000 release, it would finally hit online websites like IGN, showing off gameplay stills, yet 2000 would roll on by with no signs of Galleon. Yet in 2001, Edge once again would run a front-page story for Galleon. Here they would promote the engine built from the ground up, as well as its innovative analog stick control design.
Back then, you probably could edge to the female characters in most video games,
where all the game's actions could be pulled off with simple motions, as Rama would take care of the rest, emphasizing that this game was based on old swashbuckler films, but would push the industry forward. They were still unsure of which console it would release on at this point, though. And later that year, Interplay would announce that it was a GameCube exclusive under the new title Galleon Islands of Mystery. This is the time period where I feel it was most prominently promoted, with magazines and sites like IGN showing deeper gameplay for the GameCube version. And then it was shown off at E3 2002, yet delays for this ambitious game would continue on. During this time, Interplay would have major financial issues, which meant Galleon's delayed production would put this game on the back burner for them. In 2003, publisher Psy Games would come in to become the new publisher, but only in Europe, and Atlas would come in and release it in North America. The development was also switched to being an Xbox exclusive at this point. Toby, in an interview with Play Magazine, cited tight budgets and needing more people for this huge game as reasons for its constant delays, but promised that they kept the gameplay the same and only updated the look to keep it in line with the times. So finally, 6 years after its first announcement, Galleon would hit shelves as an Xbox exclusive. First coming to Europe on July 11th, 2004, it would reach North America on August 3rd. My personal history with this game is light, but it was one of the first games I was ever recommended to review on this channel about 5 years ago. I had never heard of it at the time, and after some research, I played it and really liked it. And I brought it up in a few hidden gem videos, but I do feel like it's time for me to fully beat this one and give you an in-depth review. So let's hop into the review, breaking it down, starting with the plot.
Captain Rama Sabria, although we have never met, your reputation precedes you. In fact, your name has become quite legendary in these parts, and it is because of this that I'm writing to you. I have recently come by.
In this game, you play as Rama. Rama is a classic swashbuckler character who has been called to an island to investigate a mysterious ship. This ship has a garden on it with a mysterious tree. The tree grows a mystical herb that can save lives, but also can give powers that can be used for evil. An evil man named Jabez decides to take the herb for himself, and Rama, along with a healer named Faith, take on after him. This game is like a cat and mouse chase as you travel to different islands to catch him, but also you figure out the mysteries of the ship along the way. You also end up in a slave encampment where you save Mihoko, who is skilled in martial arts. With that, you all make it to the ship's destination, and you discover the secrets of this tree while having to stop Jabez from reaching his full power. With that, you have a great adventure romp before Galleon, which has a really strong plot to back it up. Though it is a simple chase across islands, each island has a story to tell, such as the spire where Kray's shipwright lives, or the palace that you must scour to save your partner. Each is fairly long and offers a lot of dialogue, all with great voice acting. The plot wouldn't work as well if Rama weren't as cool as he is, or if Faith wasn't as headstrong. All these characters deliver smart dialogue and create a fun atmosphere, really having the feel of a classic Ray Harryhausen adventure film that it's...
This game looks very similar to, what's that other one? Fuck. It's the BioWare game. It's like Jade something, if you know what I'm talking about. Kind of looks similar to that.
Trying to emulate. You learn to really enjoy the characters, and I thought the reveal of the plant's origins was solid and offered some real intrigue. Now, I do think the love triangle is a bit hokey, with 2 women pining after you. Yet that's fine because hokey is the drive here. It wants to be escapist fun, and I think it does a good job of delivering on that. Luckily, there are no cliffhangers here, and it all wraps up quite nicely. If anything, one of the most memorable aspects of this game is its plot and world building. Obviously, Toby Gard can make great characters with his work on Lara Croft, and I think here he fleshes out some fun, memorable ones and creates a solid magical world that brings Galleon to life. Alright, so the plot is good, but the gameplay is where the game opens up into something truly bizarre. This is a third-person action game, but the character's movement is not traditional. For 1998, I feel we were still experimenting with movement design in a platformer, but by 2004, we had that down. The right stick usually moves the camera, and the left stick controls all your movement. Yet that is not the case in this game. Here, all the motions are tied to the left stick. Moving forward lightly will make you walk, moving forward harder will make you run, and so will hitting back on the stick. Yet moving the stick left or right moves the camera. Rama will only move forward from where the camera is pointed, and doesn't really turn. It's possible, but you can do it very slowly, so most of the time, you will need to stand and spin to get to the correct direction. It's not too hard hard to understand once you play the game, but it never feels amazing, especially with all of the pinpoint platforming you do. Yet this is all well and fine. The actual movement on Rama is insane. This dude can run and jump on anything. Simply you move forward and Rama will climb something with no input needed, and sometimes he'll jump without any input. Yet that's only really when you lightly move forward. Whenever you push the stick really hard forward, it means he'll do things like jump off of high ledges, which a light tap won't do, which this is a really weird system to get down, and with a weird system like that, it's really bound to go wrong. Yet from the beginning and throughout the game, I will tell you that this experience starts strong and eventually devolves into a mess. I really enjoyed the first 5 out of these 7 levels in this game. Now the controls are never perfect, but I feel like many of the gauntlets were well suited to the controls. You're given gargantuan levels with high scale, and lots of paths. Each one felt like a maze of platforms and goals to reach, which was awesome to play. There are sections like the second island where you're passing over tall areas on slim platforms, and the slow walking speed works well, with perfectly timed jumps and wall running that bring the acrobatics of the game to life. The level design in each of these areas is well crafted, and all serve nice puzzles, though not too tough. It helps facilitate the gameplay. Elements like your jumps, which are giant, never felt cumbersome and made for daring and creative platforming. And it's not always going to work great. Rama would still run on things you wouldn't want him to, and he also won't latch on the things you want him to. But these felt like errors on my half versus the actual design of the game. Now, the one element that was underbaked from the beginning was the combat system. You hit a mix of X and Y, though Y makes you lose some health. You hit enemies when you move, and if you stand still, you block. There's not a lot of strong combos, and it's more about flow and timing, asking you to hit X multiple times as a symbol pops up in the corner. The timing here never felt right, and it was always more useful just to slap the X button over and over, or use the Y button for boss battles. So it makes for boring combat that never plays particularly well. Even when you get special moves as you get higher combos, they never feel satisfying, or even that powerful, making for extremely boring combat. The combat, though, is fine, and it's never that bad, but the boss battle...
This looks, I don't know, kind of sloppy, but
are very weak.
Maybe
Here you need
it
to hop on the
has its
backs of
own
these enemies and
soul.
stab the back of their heads by climbing them. It's a very cool idea, and the first time you do it, I thought it was awesome. Yet every major boss battle repeats this fight over and over, which means your biggest battles all the way to the very final one reuse the same style of gameplay, which I feel is uninteresting game design. Many bosses are just as bad with enemies with gigantic health bars. You whittle these down so slowly, and none of these enemies are hard. They just take forever, which is just plain tedious, and I think tedium is far worse than being majorly difficult. So the game is certainly flawed, but there's a lot of charm in the oddball controls. I think the idea of an ambitious movement style is neat, and the platforming sections are perfectly suited for it. There's also a weird cursor system where you hold down B to hover over items, and you move Rama to them to use them. It feels like a point and click. It's such an odd choice, but I like odd choices, and it certainly makes this game feel unique. I especially love its use when you have Faith or Miyoko with you. There are a few puzzles that require you to direct them to different switches, like one early on where they need to flip switches so platforms go to the correct positions as you jump on them. So you go to your menu, which is controlled by the right stick, which is also really weird, and you direct them to the correct places. And I really love this system's ingenuity, and it brought the band of adventurers to life in the gameplay. Up to the 6th level, which was full of fun platforming challenges and puzzle highlights, I continue to really enjoy the spark of creativity and fun behind this game. Combat was far from perfect, but it was a game I was willing to overlook some issues to find something fun. Yet those final levels have all of the worst elements of the game thrown at you. For one, there's a large underwater section which has you hunting down objects. There's a mechanic where Miyoko will breathe air into you as your breath runs low. It is tedious because you have to grapple with poor swimming controls, and then you need to call on her, and it's not an instant move. She has to swim to you, and sometimes she's really far away, so you have to preemptively call her when your breath is about halfway done, just so you don't die. It's a god-awful level, and then after that, it gets worse. There's a kaiju fight, but there's no damage here. You have to direct a monster into a small lava pit with your punches and kicks. The combat is never good enough to direct anything anywhere. This is a battle of attrition that is miserable to sit through and far too long to get to work properly. This combo of sections makes the 6th level the worst of the bunch. And the final level has you going through 2 gauntlets, one where you're tiny in a big world. This offered hard platforming, but it was all well designed, having you hop on moving platforms and make giant leaps. This was an awesome section of the game, and it's one of the highlights. Yet the air world gauntlet is another miserable level. This has you doing a lot of floating and jumping onto moving objects, which Rama just slips off easily. It also has you collecting gems hidden all over the place, and it's a trek to explore this long, tedious level. This was the opposite of the other gauntlet, and one of the worst bits of the game. And it all culminates into a boss fight that just repeats what we've done before. So the ending of this experience could have been so much better. There's a lot to say about this game, which overall I did like. I think the platforming's ambition is there, and it makes for something I've never played before, especially on the Xbox, making it fresh and unique. Yet it is far from perfect, as the endgame is rough and the combat isn't entertaining. So it's one of those games that is both fun and flawed. Before we move on, I want to say thank you for watching so far. I appreciate your time, and these videos do take a lot of time and effort, and I want to make sure I put out the best quality videos for you, so let me know what reviews you'd like to see next in the comment section. Subscribe if you haven't already, and leave a like as it really helps me out in the algorithm, but let's go ahead and move on into the visuals. Galleon has a very unique visual aesthetic to go alongside the gameplay. Here the characters have a strong polygonal look, almost broken at the seams on each of their limbs. Looking through old magazines, this is the way they had always looked since 1999, and it does feel like a holdover. In the cutscenes, it's noticeable how broken apart they are, but I do think they are at least distinctive, all with nice faces and lip sync animations to add to the game's plot. So on one hand, it's outdated, but I do enjoy what it brings. The range of motion on Rama in the gameplay is very strong. The way he jumps large distances, climbs objects, and backflips, the acrobatics here are very well done for the time. It works well with the fluid motion that the developers were trying to capture and enhances the gameplay in that experience. The hit and miss look also affects the environment as well. On one hand, the scale captured here is awesome. This really hits in the 2nd level where you're climbing to the top of a tall structure. The scale of it is awesome, where you look below and you see all the mini areas you've traveled in. Many levels are over an hour long and feature a maze-like structure in which paths layer over one another. It's all thoughtfully designed, and I never felt lost in the game. Though I wouldn't say it's linear, it does lead you down paths, and it feels very fluid. The scale also captured in these levels like the Sultan's Temple, where you travel through many rooms and courtyards, and you even end up on the roof. It makes it feel like you can go anywhere you want. Yet the textures on elements like rocks and grass graphics feel archaic, like elements plastered on the things with not a lot going on. There isn't a lot of life in the environments. Though they do add a lot of color to the game, I found when outside, there just wasn't much to do. The enemies also have a very weak look to them too, with many humans having plastered on faces and textures, and the animals looking awful. And overall, there's a lot here that looks like a much older game. The Xbox in 2004 was pulling off some incredible stuff, and for an Xbox exclusive at this time to look like this, it just doesn't stack up. It makes for a game that, despite having strong art, it's overall ugly when it's put together. I do think the art design does bring some bright and colorful aesthetics, making it not horrible to look at. There is a uniformity to the look that makes it feel great to look at times, and it is vibrant. This goes down to the bright sunny beaches and the colorful cast of characters, so I do think it captures something in the look, even if it's archaic. The voice acting in Galleon is awesome. The plot from earlier would not work as well if it didn't have the great voice actors behind it. Your main cast is filled with voice acting greats. Rama is voiced by Roger L. Jackson, who you might know as the voice of Ghostface, but he's not doing that voice here. He manages that suaveness well. You have Kim May Quest and Jennifer Hale supplying the great work for the female leads. Michael Bell as the villain Jabez delivers a great villainous turn, and then the amazing Tony Jay lends his voice here as well as the narrator. It's a stacked cast and all are playful, not overdoing it and allowing the silly yet entertaining dialogue to work. I thought every voice actor here made the characters more interesting, and that really helped the plot, especially with the loads of dialogue and plot packed into the story. I also enjoyed the use of silly sound effects. Punches and kicks all feel like something out of an old Batman episode. In interviews, it seemed like they wanted to capture a comic book feel, and the punchiness here feels just like that, feeling very silly. It makes the combat, which feels lackluster, have a little more life to it. Rama also does a lot of sounds when he does backflips or he hits. All are dynamic and not overused voice lines, so it's never quite tiring. Now, a tiring sound in this game is the alert noise. So when you move from slow to fast, the game will make a noise to notify you that you're moving fast. As you do this very often, you will hear this ding over and over again, which can be annoying and
It's kind of, not really, but kind of reminiscent of the early Prince of Persia games too.
that are very stop and go. Another element I didn't like was the lack of music. The music when it appears is great, not really going for a pirate vibe, as this game isn't about pirates. It has a light jauntiness that's fun, easygoing, but can be bold and adventurous in its combat. Yet, I felt that a lot of this game lacked any type of music, so sometimes you're doing platforming to no noise at all. I'm a guy who likes music in my games, and light music in the background can really help keep some energy going, but instead, it feels awkward here and could have used a little bit more of a pep up, especially in those later levels. Galleon is such an odd and obscure game that had so much hype but released to nothing. With weird controls that might have been revolutionary in 2000, they were bizarre only 4 years later. Not only that, the look wasn't quite up to snuff for the time either, and it also had a weak combat system. Yet despite these issues, especially in the back half, I really appreciated its ambition. I think the controls are part of the charm that makes it stand out. With normal platforming controls, I feel like it wouldn't have that acrobatic edge that would make it stand out. Not only that, but the colorful style and swashbuckling plot are very entertaining, especially when delivered by a great voice cast. I will say by the 6th level, I was looking to rank this game in the higher end based on its charm alone. I'm a guy who doesn't really care much about style over substance. I think style can make a game memorable and entertaining. Yet beating this game was a chore, and there were issues throughout, so I can't say it's one of the best exclusives, but I will certainly say it's underrated. On my ranking list of every original Xbox game reviewed here on the channel, which I've now reviewed 138, Galleon enters in at number 61. I did shuffle the list a bit and drop Jedi Starfighter down a few slots because I don't feel the lasting impact on the game has been very strong, and all the games above it offered gameplay I was more willing to return to. Galleon here sits at 61 above Black, because though I do like Black, I'm not as big of a fan of it as everyone else it seems. I enjoyed Galleon's world and unique gameplay style. I think it brings a lot more interesting to the table over Black, which felt like just another first-person shooter. I do think Air Force Delta Storm is far more replayable though. Delta Storm has a much stronger set of elements and did not offer as many frustrating areas as Galleon, offering a much more consistent gameplay feel and style. And I wanted to break this game down further into a genre list, and I think platforming fits this game best. This was a hard genre list to put together, as I feel platformers were starting to be loosely defined in the 6th generation, so I tried to pull together games where I felt platforming had as much focus as the combat. Yet if you feel any game from my ranking list belongs here, let me know in the comments. Galleon ranks in at number 9 of the 16 I have here. I do think it's better than the likes of Scalar and Tai. Those games are fun, but the plot in Galleon makes it stand out over those two, and it offers something much more unique. Yet Vex is a much tighter platformer all around with a larger moveset, and I also felt like Pirates Legend of Black Cat was a better swashbuckling game due to the openness of that title and how much you could sail and explore, which if you've never played that one, definitely check it out. Yet games like Jet Set Radio Future and Indiana Jones are definitive in terms of movement, with Indiana Jones feeling like a great successor to Tomb Raider and Getting Up feeling like the next generation platforming styles as we moved into games like Assassin's Creed. Galleon would come out to mixed reviews according to Metacritic, where it currently holds a 67 out of 100. IGN gave one of the more positive reviews, giving it an 8.2 out of 10. They did think the visuals were too simplistic, but found a game with a lot of personality and great level design. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave it 2 4.5s and a 5. The consensus was that this game was ugly and the controls were funky, yet they liked the voice acting and thought it might work for somebody looking for something unique. Official Xbox Magazine gave it a 6.8 out of 10. They felt the characters were nice, but the game was dated, with a good story that they felt was charming, but the controls were far too annoying to make it a great game, and it felt unfinished. According to VG Charts, which estimates sales, Galleon was a bomb, only selling around 30,000 copies overall. A game that seemed very promising and well publicized at the time the Dreamcast was simply old news by 2004, with 2 publishers having
Gears of War Reloaded numbers
to come in and releasing it to zero fanfare. Yet in 2004, just a month before the game's North American release, it was rumored that Confounding Factor, the game's developer, was shutting its doors once Galleon came out, and that exactly happened. All this build-up just for nothing special to happen. Toby Gard would return to work on the Tomb Raider series, helping with Legend, Anniversary, and Underworld, and he now runs an indie studio called Catheria Games, and they just put out Dream Cycle in 2021, but nothing else has been announced since. Galleon, in terms of lasting impact, seems to be nothing. Hardly anyone mentions this game, and it does come up in my comments sometimes, but it seems to come up more as an oddity or people just being interested in its history. Though I'm sure there's people out there who have heard of this game, and I'm sure there's people out there who enjoy it. On Backlogged, only 53 people have said they've played it, and it holds a 3.1 out of 5 average. Yet, how did this game look to you? If you've never played it, let me know if you're interested in it, or if it doesn't look like it's for you. And if you played it, let me know in the comments if you loved it or hated it. I would love to hear your opinions. Everybody's opinion is important. Be sure to leave a like, as it really helps me out, and subscribe to keep up with videos like this. And check out my second channel, Camp Extras, for more gaming videos that are related to Xbox. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. You really help out the channel, and I'll see you here next time at Camp.
Yeah, I mean, it looks goofy. It's one of those, like, you know, early PS2 generation kind of action slop titles that probably didn't age very well.
Xbox.
But I don't know. Not the worst looking game I've seen, but I don't know if I'd want to play it. Ugh. Alright, I think we're through everything. Yeah, I played the Army Man Chopper game, I'm pretty sure. Or whatever it was. Whatever it was called. I don't think I ever had it, but I know for a fact my friend did. I might have had one on 360, actually. Was there one on 360? Yeah. I guess. I don't know. Oh god, Chappie. Nope, no armpit Asian girl. She's gone. She's gone and she's never coming back, bro. It's over. Alright, well, it's almost 6 o'clock, guys. I'm kind of tired, so I think I'm probably going to go ahead and sign off. I'm, like, trying to stay awake at this point. Chappie came out. Dude, Chappie was, like, a huge meme for a while. Budsling, if it's short, I mean, I don't really care about PS3 skyrocketing prices. These are always just clickbait so people can pump their shit. Alright, we can watch it real quick, but...
Well, it's finally starting to happen. With PlayStation announcing the closure of the PlayStation 3 and the PS Vita online stores, the prices on some of these PlayStation 3 games on eBay are starting to skyrocket and reach some pretty crazy levels. I think we all knew this was going to happen. I just don't know that we knew when it would happen or exactly how bad some of these prices would get. But I was scrolling through eBay earlier today, and I gotta tell you, I was pretty shocked at some of these prices. So we're gonna jump on eBay, jump on price charting, and take a look at what's going on with some of these PlayStation 3 games. But before we do that, let's take a look at the announcement from PlayStation so that we understand what prices look like before and after that announcement was made. Here you can see that announcement was made on July 1st, an update on PlayStation Store for PS3 and PS Vita. And we're not going to read the whole article, but we're going to take a look at this first paragraph. This is where most of the important stuff is here. After nearly 2 decades of supporting the PlayStation 3 console generation, we wanted to let you know starting one day, we're not going to be too concerned about the average prices of these games because the average price spans a time frame both before that announcement was made and after that announcement was made. But when you go down and look at the individual sales, you can see the Puppeteer was selling in June for a price of around, let's see, $65, $75, $70, $60. So somewhere around $60 to $75 on average for this game. And that price seemed to be pretty steady all the way up until that announcement was made.
And it's not even a good game either. That's the funny part.
from Sony. Once you hit July 1st, you start to see the game bump up a little bit to $80, $90, $93, start getting close to that $100 range, and even here you see it hit $100 and $109. Then all the way up here on July 13th, you can see the game sold for $155 and $145. So almost 3 times what this game was selling for back in the middle of June. And with price charting, sometimes the sales data will lag. I'm actually filming this video on July 18th, but I can only see sales information all the way up until July 13th. So I'm missing a few days of sales information here, and it's actually a pretty important few days of sales data because in the last few days, the price of Puppeteer has gone up much higher than even the $155 sale price that you see here. So let's jump on over to eBay and see what is going on with Puppeteer in the last few days. Here we are on eBay looking at listings for Puppeteer, and you can see the very first listing, someone's asking $225 for this game. If you keep scrolling, you'll see the same thing. Here's one for $185, but this is an auction that still has over 2 days left, and it's already got a bid on the game for $185. Here's someone asking $240, $200, $250, $280 for this game. That's almost twice the cost of the $150 you saw in that price charting data. And it just goes on and on. 270.
Damn, bro, I should have sold my folklore copies I bought for $250. Oh well. I tripled up on those. I still have 5 copies of it, but I sold my 2 extra ones I bought recently.
$4, $175. Again, this is a bid here, $290. And you might be saying, okay, this is just what people are asking for the game. But are people actually paying these prices? If you actually filter the data for completed listings, you'll actually see that people are paying these extremely high asking prices for this game right now. So here you can see the game sold for $215. This isn't the ESRB version of the game. That's what we're going to be looking at for this video. But here you can see another ESRB copy, $220, $99. Someone got a good price here. $270 somebody paid for this game just 2 days ago. Again, $280 on July 16th. So this game just continues to go up. People are paying these extremely high asking prices for this game. I don't know how much higher this game's going to get. It is exclusive to the PlayStation 3, so that is the only way you can play this game. So it's possible that these prices...
And it's not even good either. It's just platform slapper.
Prices continue to get even higher than they are right now. But let's take a look at the next game here. All right, the next game we're going to look at is Folklore. This is another PlayStation 3 exclusive game. When you go down and look at the individual sales information for this game, you're not going to see any sales information from before the Sony announcement. That's just because of how...
I told y'all to buy it when it was $60. I mean, I was buying it when it was 30 or 40, but you know.
Price charting tracks their games. They only show so many listings here, and because this
I bought 2 more copies at $60 a piece when I told y'all to, so...
Game sells more often than Puppeteer. We're not going to have data that goes back before that announcement was made. But what we can look at here is we can look at the sales history over time and get an idea of what this game was selling for on average. And you can see here it was selling pretty regularly over time, anywhere from $40 to $50. And if you look at the sales information from after the announcement was made, here's sales information for July 13th. You can see the game sold for $102, $120, $150. Here you have $120, $110, $149. So much higher than the $40 and $50 this game used to go for. And if you jump on eBay, people are asking even higher prices than that. Here you can see someone's asking $150 for a complete inbox copy. Someone's asking $175 for a copy. Here's one for $99. Not as bad as the first 2 games we looked at, but still double the cost of what this game used to go for. Here you can see 120, 90, 90, 178 someone's asking. So again, this is just what people are asking. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the completed prices and see what people are actually buying the game for. Here you can see the most recent sale for Folklore went for $122 on bid. So it had 34 bids and the game sold for $122, 2 to 3 times of what it used to go for prior to Sony's announcement. Here you have $100, $100, $120, July 16th, $130 someone bought this game for. So again, with this
most recent sold is 150, 160, 160, 150. Yeah, so 150 to 160-ish is what it's at now.
This being a PlayStation 3 exclusive, it's possible that these prices just continue to rise. This one actually surprised me a little bit. This is the Godfather, the Don's edition. So this is an enhanced version of the original Godfather game, and this enhanced version is a PlayStation 3 exclusive. And when you look at the sales history for this game used to sell for between $90 and $100 on average. So you can see $90 here, $105, $104, $110, $95, $109. So maybe $90 to $110, we'll say. And then Sony makes the announcement. You can see those prices start to jump up. $143, $140, $149, $155, $202. Again, double the cost of what it used to go for. And when you jump on eBay for this game, you can see people are asking even more than that. $220, $214, $199. So double the amount of what it used to go for. In some cases, even more than double the amount. Not a game that I expected to get this high in value, over $200, but here we are with the PlayStation 3 store closing down, and these physical copies will be the only way that you can play these games in the future. Here's the price chart.
I don't think those games are available digitally either. That's why they're so expensive even before the announcement, because it's a licensed game.
Info for 3D.Game Heroes, another PlayStation 3 exclusive game. Again, we're not going to see any sales history here from before the Sony announcement, but if you scroll up here to the trend line for the game, you can see that it's been a $40 to $50 game pretty much forever. $42, $47, $48, $44. And when you scroll down and look at the individual sales from after the Sony announcement, you'll see that the game is selling for much more than the $40 and $50 that it used to go for. $127, $115, $114, $130, $114. $127, $119. And again, if you jump on eBay, you'll see the same thing. $129, $120, $139. This was a $40 and $50 game prior to Sony's announcement. $124, $109, $99, $199 somebody's asking for this game. Again, are people paying these prices? This is just what they're asking. Let's see what they're actually paying. $139. This was the best offer, so we don't really know what they agreed to pay on that price, but $129, $127, $109, $125, $140. This was a $40 to $50 game about a month ago, and now people are paying $140 for this game. 3 times what this game used to sell for. And you're even starting to see this with games that aren't exclusive to the PlayStation 3. Here you have Spider-Man Edge of Time. This was also released on the Xbox 360 and the Wii. And you can see prior to the Sony announcement that
these are always expensive though, because they're Spider-Man.
the game was going for just over $100. You got an anomaly here of $150, but after that, you got $104, $110, $112, $110, $105, $109. Pretty regularly, right around that $100, $110 price point. But then the Sony announcement comes, and you see we've got $199, $100.
No. That's not the Sony announcement. That's the new Spider-Man movie. That's what caused that, bro.
$150, $134, $169, $200. And then it's the same story when you jump on eBay. Not quite as drastic for this game. You're not seeing it jump 2 to 3 times of what it was going for, but there is a substantial price increase. So here you can see someone's asking $130, $170, $155, $140, $149, $156. And again, these are asking prices. Let's see what people are paying. All right, so you see someone here paid $110, so that's a good price. That's about what it used to go for. But then you see here $150, $170, $160, much higher than the $110 that this game used to go for. And so while it's not 2 to 3 times what the game used to go for, it's still pretty significantly higher than what it used to go for in that $100 to $110 price point. So pretty wild times right now with some of these PlayStation 3 prices on eBay. I don't know how long this will continue to go on for. I do think there's a lot of panic buying and FOMO going on right now. At some point that'll settle down and it's possible the prices start to come back down just a little bit, but it's hard to say for sure. What are your thoughts? Do you think prices will continue to climb higher? Or do you think once everything settles down, things will normalize and we'll see prices drop just a little bit?
They'll normalize. The fact of the matter is all of these quote-unquote rare games, there's still hundreds of thousands of copies out there. How many people actually want a fucking copy of 3D Dot Hero? Not very many.
Let me know in your comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
So, sell high, baby. Sell high. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hop off, guys. Have a great Sunday, everybody. I'm going to go to sleep. And, yeah, I'll talk to everybody later.